On the morning of November 8, 2024, dire news broke on Ukrainian Telegram channels. Russia was on the move again. A renewed push was being waged by the Russian armed forces onto Ukrainian positions in the Kursk region of Russia. After grimly and slowly reclaiming about half of the territory captured by Ukrainian armed forces in Kursk in August, the battle for the front lines had been somewhat of a stalemate in recent weeks. Now the Russians seem to be making a more determined push, but there was a new question on the lips of many observers. Might we finally actually see footage of North Korean troops on the ground? Since the end of October, strong evidence has been presented by both Ukraine and South Korea that at least 10,000 North Korean forces have been deployed to Russia, trained, and then shipped to the front lines in Kursk, if not Donbass. Ukrainian sources have reported several clashes involving North Koreans that have resulted in the death and wounding of several of them. But other than one unverified video of what is allegedly a badly wounded North Korean soldier who claims that he and his units were callously used as cannon fodder by the Russians, no hard evidence has yet seen the light of day. Perhaps that's all about to change. The focus, understandably, has been on what the North Koreans are doing in Russia and how that might affect the balance of war. But there's another angle to the story that is perhaps more serious and not getting the attention it deserves. What if North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has sent the North Korean troops to Ukraine to prepare them for imminent war against South Korea? The danger of war breaking out on the Korean Peninsula is greater than you might think. In fact, it's arguably greater than at any time since the 1980s, with the appearance of North Korean troops in Ukraine only one of several events that have ratcheted up tensions in the region in recent months. Technically, the Korean War never actually ended. The Korean Armistice Agreement, signed at the end of the Korean War on July 27, 1953, established a ceasefire, but no formal peace agreement ever followed. The Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, established to separate the warring parties at the 38th parallel, still stands today, with numerous spats and skirmishes taking place over the years. During his first term from 2016 to 2020, US President-elect Donald Trump had as much success as anyone in defusing the tensions. In 2018, he became the first sitting US president to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un, who had greeted the incoming president with a series of missile and nuclear tests, leading to Trump threatening fire and fury in return. The meeting in Singapore resulted in a joint statement where they committed to work towards denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, although nothing has actually come of it in practice. In 2019, Trump made a surprise visit to the DMZ where he met with Kim Jong Un again, this time as a sign of goodwill and improving relations. The South Korean president during Trump's term, Moon Jae-in, followed Trump's lead and sought to pursue a policy of diplomacy and dialogue with North Korea, also known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or DPRK. This led to the Panmunjom Declaration and the Pyongyang Joint Declaration, aimed at reducing tensions and improving inter-Korean relations. For the first time in decades, it looked like the situation in one of the most dangerous flashpoints in the world might be improving permanently. But all that went out of the window rapidly, firstly with Trump's loss to President Joe Biden in the 2020 elections, then after current South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol replaced Moon on May 10, 2022. Both Biden and Yoon have taken a much harder line with Kim and vice versa, so tensions have been steadily mounting. It's also been exacerbated by the signing of the strategic partnership between North Korea and Russia, which includes the Mutual Defense Pact that has led to North Korean troops on the ground in Russia and possibly even in Ukraine. Let's take a look at the events that led to this dangerous, volatile point, and why North Korean boots on the ground in Russia might well be a prelude to a major confrontation on and around the peninsula in the near future. A key point in the escalation can be traced back to March 2022, when the US and South Korea made plans to conduct their largest combined military drills in many years, slated for the following August. Kim saw the preparations as a betrayal by Trump and the US. In June, North Korea conducted 6 rounds of missile tests and a barrage of artillery firing drills, with Kim announcing a more aggressive military posture along the disputed sea boundary with Korea. When the US and South Korea conducted their August exercises, it was a serious show of strength, involving over 10,000 American and 200,000 South Korean troops, participating in live fire drills, air assault, and missile interception exercises, including with nuclear-capable equipment. Then in December 2022, a North Korean drone incursion into South Korean airspace sparked a military alert, prompting Seoul to respond with its own unmanned aerial vehicles. This set in motion a drone and balloon-based tit-for-tat that is at the heart of the increased tensions today. The drone exchange continued in the first half of 2023, although they were more provocative than dangerous. While some were flyover spying missions, most involved the continuing distribution of anti-Kim propaganda leaflets and flash drives filled with South Korean content like K-pop music, though the DPRK has claimed some also contained viruses. The North responded by sending thousands of balloons filled with garbage and even human waste into the South. For both sides, the effect seems to have been akin to a schoolyard spat. In July 2023, the nuclear-armed USS Kentucky docked near the South Korean city of Busan, followed by the USS Annapolis, a nuclear-powered attack submarine. And in June 2024, South Korea suspended the Trump-negotiated 2018 Inter-Korean Military Pact. Both events were seen as serious provocations by Pyongyang, resulting in furious rhetoric. The South, for its part, remained equally belligerent, with Yoon drawing a hard line on the need to eliminate the North's nuclear threat. By the end of the year, things had degenerated significantly. On December 31, 2023, Kim Jong Un stated that war on the Korean Peninsula could start at any time, and unification between the northern and southern parts of the country was no longer possible. "We officially declare that if the United States and South Korea try to confront us militarily, our nuclear deterrent forces will respond," he said, adding that the relationship between North and South is no longer one of kinship or one of homogeneity, but has completely become a relationship between two hostile countries, two warring parties. The statement was soon followed up by more than 200 artillery shells fired into Seoul's maritime zone, the de facto border between the nations. On January 5, 2024, South Korea responded by bombing North Korean waters. In response, on January 16th, the Supreme People's Assembly of the DPRK abolished the Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of the Country, the National Economic Cooperation Bureau, and the Kumgangsan International Tourism Administration. This move prompted Robert L. Carlin and Siegfried S. Hecker, two of the US's most experienced North Korean experts, to pen an article raising the specter of an all-out nuclear conflict brewing on the peninsula under the title, "Is Kim Jong Un Preparing for War?" The evidence suggests he most certainly is. It's in this context that sending his troops to Russia to gain actual combat experience makes perfect sense. Although North Korea is reputed to have a standing army of 1.3 million troops, with another 560,000 in reserve, their actual combat experience is negligible. He may hope to remedy that with North Korea's alleged involvement in Ukraine. If there is ever an actual physical invasion across the DMZ, it will only be one part of Kim's strategy for war. Drones, submarines, and in particular missiles are likely to be a large part of the offensive mix. Throughout 2024, Kim has pointedly overseen a series of highly provocative missile tests and launches, threatening both South Korea and Japan, and even the US. On April 4th, North Korea successfully tested a new medium and long-range missile, the Hwasong-Po-16B. Armed with a hypersonic glide warhead, the rocket flew over 600 miles at an altitude of 72.3 kilometers and entered the Sea of Japan. On April 22nd, Kim personally supervised the first combined tactical drill simulating nuclear counterattack with the use of 600mm super-large multiple rocket launchers. May 31st saw the synchronized launch of 18 North Korean missiles. Meanwhile, the balloon provocations continued to ramp up. In response to these missile tests, South Korean pro-democracy group Fighters for a Free North Korea boasted that it had sent 20 large balloons with 300,000 leaflets and 2,000 flash drives north. "Tit-for-tat action will be taken," said the DPRK's Deputy Defense Minister Kim Kang-il on May 26th. A few days later, South Korea's Joint Chiefs reported that over 700 North Korean trash balloons had been discovered across the country, following a salvo of 260 earlier in the week. That prompted South Korea's National Security Council to decide on June 3rd to also fully suspend the 2018 Inter-Korean Military Agreement. The DPRK sent at least 300 more trash balloons in response on June 9th. Russian President Vladimir Putin's trip to Pyongyang on June 19th and 20th, his first in 20 years, only seems to have emboldened Kim's regime. But signing a mutual defense pact with a nation with the world's largest nuclear arsenal might have that effect. On August 5th, North Korea announced the delivery of 250 nuclear-capable missile launchers to frontline units. "It would be our choice to either pursue dialogue or confrontation, but our lesson and conclusion from the past 30 years is that confrontation is what we should be prepared more thoroughly for," said Kim. The US and the South, needless to say, haven't taken any of this lying down. On August 19th, South Korea and the United States launched extensive war games dubbed the Ulchi Freedom Shield, reportedly involving over 19,000 troops. These were, you guessed it, denounced by the North as a means of simulating acts of aggression. Then, another alarming twist. On September 12th, North Korea launched an unidentified ballistic missile toward the Sea of Japan, perhaps to welcome Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu, who visited Pyongyang the next day. Kim assured him that the DPRK government will continue to expand cooperation and assistance with the Russian Federation. Supplying North Korean troops to Russia would fit that bill exactly. A few days later, on September 18th, North Korea launched a series of short-range ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan, reportedly including both new Hwasong-Po-11 Da-4.5 missiles with super-large warheads and a modernized strategic cruise missile. On October 2nd, Kim stated that he would use without hesitation all the offensive forces that he possesses, including nuclear weapons, during a visit to a Western DPRK army base. In the meantime, news about the supply of North Korean weapons and then troops to Russia had started to become more than just rumors. On October 13th, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claimed in his evening address to the country that the alliance between Russia and North Korea is no longer just about the transfer of weapons, it's actually about the transfer of people. Meanwhile, back on the Korean Peninsula, things took an even bigger turn for the worse. On the same day as Zelensky's address, North Korea ordered 8 artillery barrages near the border with South Korea to full fire readiness. The next day, South Korea's military said it was fully ready to respond, while North Korea accused the South of sending drones carrying leaflets toward Pyongyang and threatened a terrible catastrophe. On October 15th, North Korea took things a step further, blowing up sections of roads connecting to South Korea. 2 days later, it redefined South Korea as a hostile country in its constitution. The South Korean government strongly condemns these actions, regarded as anti-unification and anti-humanitarian, which ignore the aspirations of both the South and North Korean people for unity, the South Korean Unification Ministry said in response. South Korea also announced it had heightened its alert level to the maximum on Yongpyong Island, following the detection of unusual movements from North Korean coastal units, and that China has abruptly withdrawn all fishing boats from the region. Then on October 31st, the DPRK took its most provocative action yet, launching an intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM, towards the Sea of Japan, which flew a distance of 600 miles and at an altitude of 4,300 miles. Thus, the range of this missile could exceed its maximum altitude depending on the weight of the warhead, Japanese Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi said. In other words, this was a direct threat not just to South Korea and Japan, but to the continental US. All things considered, it seems as if Carlin and Hecker's alarm might be prescient. The US's decision earlier in 2024 to upgrade its nuclear doctrine to include North Korea as a primary threat also seems prescient. But for the US, war in Korea now would probably be an unwelcome turn of events. The US has recently shipped a major amount of military assets to the Middle East, including B-52 bombers and THAAD missile defense systems, in an attempt to contain the Israel-Iran-Hezbollah conflict, which is threatening to erupt into a broader regional war. And of course, the Ukraine war still rages on, with big decisions needing to be made shortly on whether to assist Ukraine with substantial supplies of weapons and even possibly troops, or to force it into peace negotiations on less than ideal terms. Perhaps incoming US President Trump can back up his talk. He has claimed repeatedly during his campaign that he will quickly end the conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East and calm things down in the Far East. Certainly, he made good progress on Korea during his term, but he's dealing with a very different set of circumstances now, including a much more aggressive South Korean PM. And of course, North Korean troops on the ground in Russia complicate things immensely, particularly if they're primarily there to get experience for war with the South. For now, things remain on a knife edge, both in Kursk and along the DMZ. We'll keep you updated as events unfold, but in the meantime, what do you think? Is another Korean war moving ever closer? Or will Trump bring Kim and Putin to heel and restore order? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching. Now go and check out North Korea just sent 10,000 troops to hell, or click this other video instead.